Hello, everybody. My guest today is Justin Schieffer. Justin is the service desk manager for Live Oak IT Partners. Justin started his career here just over 5 years ago as an L1 technician. And like many people on our leadership team or our manager team, he is working his way up and is not in the job that he was hired for. In this conversation, we talk about Justin's career path that led him to Live Oak. We talked about what makes a good technician. He has the biggest team at Live Oak, so he hires a lot of people. So we talk about the characteristics of a great technician. We talk about what a great client looks like. We talked about the interest that Justin has outside of Live Oak, things like aquascaping, things like video game design, what role art plays in his life, things that make him optimistic, his family. We cover a lot of ground as we always do. So with that said, I hope you enjoyed this conversation with Justin Schieffer. I appreciate you being willing to do it despite the discomfort it causes.
Oh, it's all good. I'm happy to be here.
It's been fun to record these and to see kind of what the response to them is. I have some buddies that have watched every episode that's come out. Funny enough, one of the best received episodes thus far was with Kristen. And I think my theory on it is, I mean, first of all, we know each other pretty well because we work together. But second of all, I think the team enjoyed being able to see her talk on camera and, you know, discuss what she does at Live Oak, and it just gives them a little bit better understanding of who she is to the business. So
Yeah, and she's a little quirky and fun too.
she's a lot quirky and fun.
Just her little giggles and stuff when you guys were talking was just cracking me up.
Yeah, she was great. So, you know, if the only eyes that ever see this are Live Oak eyes, you're in good company, and it's a safe space. Nobody's going to hate you for it. You just had your 5-year anniversary here.
I sure did.
Did you think you'd make it 5 years when you started?
Yeah.
You did?
Well,
why?
With where I came from at ARM, it was just night and day difference. Like when I was there, I lived an hour across town, and I had to drive an hour each way. And if I was like 5 minutes late, my boss would berate me. And it was just such an uncomfortable work environment. And it's like once I'm there and after I'm late wears off with my boss, it's normal and everything. But I would be so exhausted at the end of the day and then have that drive back. And when you do that for 3 years, it just slowly
Chips away at you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then when I started here, it was night and day difference. Like I could just roll out of bed, go straight to my computer, and like technically we're not checking in or anything, and nobody really knows when you're getting on, which is nice. We don't micromanage anybody, which is what was happening at the old place. And if that's kind of the case and that's how it's going to be, like, I love being here.
Yeah. What employee were you? Do you know?
Oh.
Like what employee number? You came after Mike, correct?
Yes.
Mike recruited you to come here because you had worked for Mike at ARM, right?
Yeah. I don't know if I had an employee number, but I think there were like 6 people working here.
Okay, so you would have been, that's about right.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I think Mike was number 6 or 7. So you would have been right after him. The interesting thing about that, what you were saying about that we don't micromanage, I would have told you at that time that, well, yeah, we don't micromanage now because we're 6 or 7 people and I've got all their cell phone numbers.
Yeah.
So I can just call anybody and, you know, manage them that way. But now we're roughly 40, and that's still part of our ethos.
Yeah, but
why has that scaled well?
So I have the largest team at the company, and I don't micromanage my employees.
Yeah.
Because that requires me to be on their ass constantly, and I hire the right people, so I don't have to do that.
Yeah.
Now, if there's somebody that's obviously doing a bad job, of course I'm gonna be on their butt and make sure that they're doing their work. But for the most part, it's just not needed.
Yeah. You kind of give people enough rope, enough leash to do their job or hang themselves, whichever they're going to do.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that's I'll be curious to see if we double in size how well that scales. My theory is hiring adults and treating them like adults and having the same expectations out of them that you would have out of any other adult scales well. That's my assumption.
Well, we can scale as large as you want, but I think keeping the teams and the leaders small is what really counts. So even though I'm the boss of the service desk, I still have my pod leads, which run their own smaller teams. So it's definitely branching down, and they kind of take care of the nitty gritty at the bottom, and then they come up to me if they need any assistance with anything.
What's your title?
Service desk manager.
Service desk manager. And how many people are on your team?
Ooh, I mean, if we count the church and triage and everything, I think it's about
Close to 30?
a little bit smaller than that, maybe like 26,
Okay.
27.
Yeah. Okay. So you have, like you mentioned, you've got the biggest team at the company. You have quite a bit of responsibility. You're not one of our elder people. You're a young guy. Why are you successful at that job, even given your age? Or is your age actually a thing that is an advantage to you in that job?
I think it has to do with my customer service skills and how I work with our clients. Because being the service desk manager doesn't require me to be very technical. It is definitely a lot more people and service oriented. So, yeah, like my job, I'm not the one out there doing tickets or anything or any of the sysadmin work. That's Hal and his team.
Yeah.
You know, so I think, yeah, me being more people oriented has moved me towards that path.
How much does that go into your hiring methodology? When you're talking to a technician and you're weighing, you're sitting there in an interview, mostly remotely, right, via Zoom. But when you're looking at a prospective employee and you've got the tech skill set that you're evaluating and you've got the interpersonal skill set that you're evaluating, how do you weight it? Which do you weight heavier? What are some things that, would be red flags
Sure.
and one or the other? Talk about that a little bit.
So, oh yeah, that's loaded right there. Because
How do you weight it? Let's start with that.
So, first off, when the resume comes in through Indeed, first thing I check is their technical skills. Do they have them? If they don't, bottom of the pile.
That's a pass-fail.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then from there, we schedule an interview, and that whole interview is just personal for me.
Just EQ.
I don't test them on their skills or anything. I just ask them about their experience. And one of the big ones for me is I ask if they have networking knowledge. And if they know it, they'll tell me everything that they know. And I don't have to quiz them or anything. But while that's all going on, I check to see if they have any tics or anything like that. I see how they talk to me. And if they're, I don't know, a little weird,
Yeah.
I mean, I'll still sometimes give them a chance. But I am looking for those people that have those personal skills.
Yeah. When you first got into this, did you expect to be able to find the kind of people that we've been able to find? Why have we been able to find the kind of people we have?
I'm picky.
Because you're picky.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's not real common, especially not in the outsourced IT space. In my experience, an outsourced IT firm hires for the tech competence, and the interpersonal competence is kind of an afterthought, and occasionally they'll get lucky. But what we found is we're hiring a lot of people that used to work for another MSP and that realized probably, early on in their career there that they had a skill set that other people there didn't have, and it was this skill set.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So to answer your question, I think that we've been pretty lucky where the last time I was looking to hire somebody, I had like 200 applicants in like 2 or 3 days. And I was able to look through all those. But we have employees that love being here and they want their friends to work here too. So it makes my life kind of easy because we get a lot of referrals to work here.
Yeah.
So from competitors or from friends of people that work here.
Right. You had mentioned the lack of micromanagement as part of our ethos. Why else do people choose to work here and choose to continue working here, past their first couple months? We don't have a whole lot of staff turnover.
No.
Why?
So, I mean, we could say it's the benefits and all that. And it probably has something to do with it, especially the unlimited vacation. Because, yeah, back to when I was working at my previous company, I had to accrue every day that I wanted to take off. And it's like, I remember one time my uncle had died, and my boss was giving me shit about wanting to take some bereavement leave because I was just about to take a vacation that same week. And it's like, I shouldn't have to go through that sort of just permission with my boss to be able to get that done. And here it's just like, okay, go do what you need. You're an adult. I trust you to do whatever you need to do.
So given that you have the largest team, and given that that's our policy on vacation, how do you prevent abuse?
Nobody really abuses it.
Why? That's been my experience too, because we've had that. That's been part of our operating philosophy since we started the business.
Sure. Actually, let me rephrase that. Nobody that still works here
Right.
abuses it.
When it's abused, they don't work here anymore.
Well, usually they're the ones that are slacking off and taking the most vacation.
Yeah.
My best employees, I urge them to take vacation, but they're like, oh, there's too much work to do.
Yeah.
And I'm like, dude,
Yeah, go take time off.
go take time off. You're not here to be a wage slave or anything.
Right.
I appreciate your knowledge and your expertise, but you need to also recharge your brain.
Yeah. Yeah. The people that abuse that policy were likely the low people on the totem pole anyways. And the abuse of the vacation policy was like the nail in the coffin. Yeah. So if you had to describe in using descriptive words, what makes a good technician?
What makes a good technician?
What makes a great tech? Think of your best technicians. You don't have to name them by name so you don't get yourself in trouble. What are the characteristics, the common characteristics of a great tech?
Somebody who's really eager to solve the tickets. People that are just overall kind to their core. Because that being kind doesn't just mean you're kind to the customer. It also means that you don't have an ego when it comes to the team. So when somebody doesn't know something, you're eager and kind to help them out.
Yeah. Lack of ego is a good one. I would agree with that completely.
Yeah.
So we have roughly 100 clients now, 106, 107, something like that. I think it's just under 110.
I think we had like 30 when I started.
Yeah, we had 0 when I started. It's weird for me too. So when you look at our customer base, you know, everybody has sort of their personal list of best customers, the ones they enjoy working with the most. What are the characteristics of a great customer? Like if you're talking to your sales team and you're saying, go after these kind of clients, what are those characteristics?
Ego is going to come back up here. The clients that think that they know better than us, I like to, I guess, stay away from them. And the ones that trust us to recommend their path forward, those ones are the easiest to work with.
Yeah.
Because there's a true partnership there. They're not, or they are expecting us to tell them what to do because that's what they hired us for.
Right. Yeah, so the customers that like to dabble in their own stuff or be fully in control over the direction that we're steering them, those are a little bit more difficult to work with. Yeah, that's been a part of it for me too. I've noticed there's a culture of a company that just fundamentally disrespects service providers. That's a deal breaker for me. And it's a harder one to suss out pre-sales. It's harder to see that coming. Like there's been some clients that we've had where, you know, disrespect to a technician is a common theme, and I wouldn't have seen it coming. Do you see any of that yourself?
Yes, but it's not usually the whole company. It's one bad actor in the company.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah,
So,
I've seen it be cultural, but you're right. It's a little more individual.
I think it's a lot more rare for it to be cultural.
Yeah. How did you get into IT to begin with? Where'd that start?
The whole story.
Yeah.
So
We got an hour. Might as well tell me the story. I got warm coffee.
So I was never supposed to go into IT. I've actually been an artist my whole life. And all through grade school and high school, I was always on the computer playing around with Flash or Photoshop, 3D programs and stuff. And when I graduated from high school, I ended up going to the Art Institute. And my dream was to be a game designer. And I finished my 4 years there. And when I was getting out of school, I could not get a job. Nobody would interview me. And at the same time, I'm actually pretty upset at the Art Institute for this, but they fired my career counselor as soon as I graduated.
Really?
Yeah, so there was nobody out there like trying to guide me in the right direction or help me set up those interviews or anything. So while that's going on.
When was this? When did you graduate?
2014.
14.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so while this was going on, I had quit my job at Silverleaf Resorts. I was working at a timeshare company at the time.
Oh, okay. Selling timeshares?
No, it's that guy at the mall that was
I
like,
gotcha.
hey, come spin the wheel.
Yeah. You're a carnival barker.
Pretty much.
Yeah, good.
But yeah, I was like, I can't do this anymore. I'm a college graduate. I'm not going to work at the mall selling people timeshares.
Yeah.
So my dad was working at ARM, and he's like, hey, Justin, Kurt, the service desk manager here, is looking to bring on like a intern IT person. So I was like, okay. I was like, what I'm doing is kind of IT related. Like I know software, I know how to build computers and everything. So I ended up going into the interview and got the job. Thanks, Dad. But I worked there for like 3.5 years, and I got trained on the job, which I'm really fortunate for that to happen because I know that that's not usually how you get into the industry.
Did you work for Mike immediately when you got there?
No, Mike didn't work for me.
Oh, okay.
Or I didn't work for Mike. He was on the same team, same level as me.
Oh, I got you.
Yeah.
Okay.
But what's funny is I actually hired John Ebersol, and he was actually the guy that trained me and my boss whenever I was at ARM, and now he's my
Wow.
employee.
Yeah. And Jesse. Jesse's
Yeah,
now on the different team, but
he's on a different team.
yeah.
But yeah.
Very cool.
But yeah, kind of going from there, kind of we talked earlier about how I was just kind of getting worn down from that drive to and from work every day.
Yeah.
And then Mike ended up leaving, and like 6 months later, he calls me up. He's like, hey, dude, I found this awesome company. You get to work from home. And this is like right before COVID.
Yeah.
So I'm like, hell yeah,
Yeah.
I'm jumping on that. I was kind of bragging, like, oh, yeah, I get to work from home.
Yeah.
And like a few months later, COVID hits.
That's how that works.
Yeah, and everybody gets to work from home. But everybody's kind of going back to the office now, and I got to continue that.
Yeah.
But yeah, when I started here, I was just an L1 technician.
That's right. You started as an L1.
Yeah, and I kind of just turned into the on-site guy for y'all. I was just going to a client site every day, and I loved it. But then I got promoted to the Team 1 lead, or
L1 team lead.
L1 team lead.
Yeah.
And I started kind of having to manage my own team, so I couldn't go on site as much. So yeah, I think like 2 years went by, and then I got offered the position of service desk manager.
Yeah.
And I knew I was going to have a daughter. I was like, it's time to upgrade a little bit.
Yeah.
And yeah, I went for it, and I'm really enjoying it.
Would you, so if Live Oak went away tomorrow and you could just pick what you want to do, would you go back to video game design? Is that where your passion still lies?
It's hard to say, because even though we tried making a game and everything.
This is Troll House Games?
Yeah. Yeah, I guess we didn't mention that.
Oh, we can come back to it.
Sure. But yeah, even though we made a game and everything, and it just sucked so much of my life away.
Yeah.
Like I was working just day and night, even outside of work, to try to get this game done. And after 10 years, or maybe not 10, maybe like 7 or 8 years, we just had to call quits.
Yeah.
So I don't know if I would go back. I think that I will still do something artistic.
Right.
Like my brother just got me a 3D printer, and I'm kind of dabbling around in that. But and another kind of weird thing I've been doing is I've been really into like aquascaping, like fish tanks and stuff.
Really?
Yes.
Aquascaping.
Aquascaping.
That's a term.
It's a new term for having a fish tank. But whenever I was working on the game, I did a lot of environment art. So placing trees, grass, all sorts of stuff. So it's kind of transferring over into my aquariums. And it's kind of fun too, because with a video game, it's kind of like the simulation where you have your character running around and monsters and stuff.
Right.
But instead of that, I have little fishies swimming around.
So you said tanks.
Mm-hmm.
More than one?
Yeah. So I've got a little overboard.
How many do you have?
I have one 75-gallon in my entryway.
How big is 75 gallons?
4 feet.
So about like this table.
Longer. That's probably like 3 feet. So it comes
Longer.
out over here.
Okay. That's in your entryway?
Yeah.
Salt water or fresh water?
Freshwater.
Okay.
I'm not ready for that yet.
Not ready for salt water?
No.
The saltwater fish are prettier though, aren't they?
Not necessarily.
No? Okay.
Yeah.
Shows how much I know.
Yeah. And then I have a shelf up in my room. I bought this 5-story shelf.
Okay.
And I got these really cool bookshelf aquariums. They're like 10 gallons each.
Huh.
And yeah, I have like 5 of them stacked on top of each
Are they
other.
connected to each other?
No.
Okay. So that's scratching your creative itch a
Yeah.
little bit. Yeah, that I'm interested in, my mom's an artist
Yeah.
by profession. She's made a living doing it, but she's also supplemented her living by being a teacher, an art teacher, at different phases in her life. And I'm always interested to know, for people that are artistic, if you had the chance to make it your vocation and not your avocation, so have it not be like an artistic outlet, but actually a career, does it taint the art itself? Does it bastardize it? Does it make it
Yes.
harder to produce?
In a way. And I know a lot of people from my school that did end up getting into the game industry. And they are not doing what they want to do. Like, they're not out there making fun little critters or something like they did in school. They're making like Barbie Adventure or
Right.
just hyper realistic soldiers and guns and stuff.
They're doing what they're told.
Yeah.
Instead of scratching their own artistic itch.
Yeah. And then on top of that, there's that industry, there's so many layoffs. And it's like I get on LinkedIn and I see, oh, open to work on their profile picture.
Yeah.
So I think it can really take a toll on somebody
Yeah.
that is in that type of field. And it also makes me really grateful that I ended up going into IT, because it's so stable, and it's not like I'm 100% at my desk working 100% of the time. Like,
Obviously. We're here.
obviously, yeah.
We're working right now. You're on the clock.
But it's like there's a lot of free time when we're not busy, so I can, go do other things around my house.
Yeah.
Maybe if I want to go take a break, I can go draw for a little bit.
Yeah.
And that's my way of still being able to express myself while also still being able to be a professional, making a livable wage,
Right. Did you start reading The War of Art yet?
We talked about that yesterday.
I know, but I'm checking to see if you've started it yet.
No.
Start it today. So that's why I brought you here, to confront you about reading this damn book. So you've been here for 5 years. How much has your life changed in 5 years?
A lot.
Quite a bit.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, talk about that a little bit.
Earlier, we were talking about stepping out of our comfort zone. I've gone from this L1 technician to the service desk manager now. It's taken a lot of guts and doing things that I don't necessarily want to do. So I'm a lot more comfortable stepping out of my shell.
Yeah.
What else is there?
Stuff you don't want to do, or just stuff you're not comfortable doing?
Yeah. More,
Not as comfortable doing.
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. The other thing is I had a kid. That's a big one.
That changes things, doesn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, I'm no longer working on my game.
Yeah.
That was a big thing for me.
So a lot's changed in 5 years.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, the amount of planning that you do beyond 5 years has diminishing returns for sure. Especially when you look at what's happened in the world in the last 5 years. Like, you couldn't have predicted any of that stuff to happen.
Mm-mm.
So planning too much doesn't really have a whole lot of meaning to it.
Mm-hmm.
Do you read?
No.
Do you listen to podcasts?
I listen to Joe Rogan every now and then.
Okay.
And
What
then,
else do you listen to?
Of course, the Live Oak podcast.
The Live Oak podcast, of course.
But I'm not really a podcaster. I'm on YouTube all the time, though.
Okay.
And my dad got me some YouTube Premium, so there's no ads.
Okay.
So I do that instead of watching TV or anything.
What's your guilty pleasure on YouTube?
Oh,
What do you frequent?
there's a channel called the Y Files.
The Y Files?
Yeah.
WHY?
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's just like conspiracies and stuff.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a
That's
lot of
cool.
fun. I told you that I'm really into my fish tanks right now, so I watch a lot of fish too.
A lot of fish tank YouTube.
Lots of tech channels kind of stay relevant in what's going on in the world.
Yeah.
And then I also like a few animators that are on there.
Okay.
Have you ever heard of Meat Canyon?
Meat
Yeah,
Canyon.
yeah.
Nope. MEAT
Yeah.
and Canyon CANYON.
Yeah, like the Grand Canyon.
Okay. You can't explain that one. What does that mean?
He's just kind of this animator that does parodies of cartoons or real people. Like there was this one where he was making fun of the girls that go get pumpkin spice lattes at Starbucks. And she goes through the line like 10 times and she slowly turns more and more into a pumpkin. But his animation is kind of in this gross style.
That's cool.
Yeah.
I'll check that one out. Meat Canyon
Yeah.
and the Y Files.
Yeah.
Do you produce anything for YouTube other than the Live Oak podcast?
I've done a few things. In the past, I used to do a few animations that I posted. I've done a few videos where I've refinished some furniture. But I'm not like a real creator or anything. I just like to post my personal stuff for fun.
Post your personal projects. Yeah. How'd you come up with the name Troll House Games? Where does that come from?
So all my friends and I, we were at my old apartment, and you know what a troll is? Just like, I guess that's.
I know what a troll is, but it's got multiple definitions.
Sure,
right?
like just people that are like goofing around or
Trolling somebody.
Trolling
Yeah, I
somebody.
know what that is.
Yeah, so we were all a bunch of trolls, and funny enough, we were making cookies. And we had one of those containers of Toll House cookie dough, and one of us says, "Let's name our company Troll House Games," and it just stuck.
As good of a story as any. That's about how Live Oak got named
Right.
too. Yep.
How did Live Oak get named?
We had, I was sitting in, so when we were putting the business plan together for Live Oak, I would go over to my original co-founder's condo once a week. Every Sunday afternoon, we'd meet and we'd work on the business plan. We'd work on little elements of the actual document that we were putting together that was our business model. And we got to the point of needing a name. We wanted to be able to call it something other than the IT company project. And we worked on that business plan for probably the better part of a year before we had a name for it. And when it came time to needing a name, we had started to look at web domains, and finding a good web domain it's a ridiculous exercise because everything is owned. And I think I had banked at Amplify Credit Union at the time, and their domain was goamplify.com. So I thought, well, we could pick a name and just do go.thatname.com. And both Matt, my original co-founder, and I are from Texas. We both had an affinity for trees. We both had live oak trees in our yard. And so we had looked up every native Texan tree, red oak. We looked at Go Red Oak. We looked at water oak. We had looked at pecan. We'd named all the trees.
Yeah.
And we both had live oaks. And we saw that goliveoak.com was available. And that was it. We named it Live Oak IT
Nice.
because of a domain name that was available. Yeah. So not a super not a super deep story, although the Live Oak name has had more meaning to it, given what's happened in the last 4 or 5 years. We talked about this at our sort of team all hands, that we're a pretty drought tolerant business, like a live oak tree would be.
Mm-hmm.
So it has meaning, some double meaning there.
I would agree with that.
Yeah. How much do you use AI?
Oh, every day.
What tool?
ChatGPT.
Exclusively?
Yeah, I did get the beta for the new iOS though.
Okay.
I've been trying out Apple Intelligence.
Oh, that's right. They have their own AI getting built into the OS.
Yeah, it's not baked yet.
It's not great yet?
No.
Yeah.
It's like Siri 1.1.
Yeah.
It's not very good.
How do you use GPT? You use it every day?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I just ask it questions that come up to my mind. Like, doesn't even have to be like something I'm doing for work or a technical thing I'm trying to figure out.
Yeah.
Just use it like I'm talking to a person when I want to just do a quick Google search. Instead of me going to Google, I just ask ChatGPT.
So you use it in place of what you would have used Google for before?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Do you worry about AI replacing what you do for a living?
In a way. I think like some lower level stuff, at least in the short term, could replace like people to answer the phone or some lower level tickets by just having a chat bot. But when it comes to a lot more of this technical work that my techs are doing, I don't see that happening for at least 10 years.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Why?
I mean, have you used ChatGPT?
Nope.
It gets stuff wrong all the time.
Yeah.
Like, I was actually watching a video last night about this guy that was talking to the robot, as we call it.
Yeah.
And he asked it, how many rocks should I consume a day? And it's getting its information from Reddit. And it pulled up this article from like 10 years ago where it said, you should eat at least one small rock a day. And that's what Gemini, the Google's version of that, gave as its answer.
A rock a day?
A rock a day. We'll keep the
Because
doctor
Reddit
away.
says so.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we need to like get past that, and we need to have full trust that it's giving us the right answer
Yeah.
before we can fully rely on it.
Right. Do you think that'll ever happen?
Yeah.
You do.
Oh yeah.
Why? Because a generation removed from us will just expect it to be telling the truth?
Yeah. I mean, look at any sort of technology that humans have come up with. Look at the first aircraft. It was like paper with toothpicks, it looked like. And now we have F-16s and stuff that can fly at, what, Mach 9 or something? It's like if we never work on it, you're going to be stuck with the old crappy airplane. But
Yeah.
and there's a lot of money going into AI right now. Like if we keep working on it, it's just going to get smarter, more efficient, and it's going to be ubiquitous at some point.
But you don't see it fully replacing what we do?
Right now, no. But in the future...
Because 10 years is a long time. A lot changes in technology in 10 years.
Yeah, but I think that we're kind of seeing like a graph of AI from where it started, where we're at right now. I think it's going to go parabolic with how smart it is.
Yeah. So you think eventually it replaces what we do, but not for a while?
Well, yeah. I mean, what do you think? Let's say 100 years from now, what do you think AI is going to look like?
Yeah, I mean, it'd be hard to predict 2 years from now what it looks like,
Right.
especially for somebody that doesn't use it, right? And we had talked before about, before we started recording, about imposter syndrome. It's one of the things that running a technology-related business, we're not a tech business per se. We work with tech, but we're a customer service business more so, which is really the thing that I'm qualified for in this business, because I'm definitely not qualified for the tech. But a constant source of that sort of imposter syndrome, kind of misgivings about my role at the business is I'm not a real avid user of tech in my own personal life. In fact, at the end of the day, I'm typically looking to get away from it. I'm looking to go put my cell phone on the charger and go outside for a little bit. So like my ability to forecast trends in technology and their effect on our business, when I'm not real confident, when I am in that imposter syndrome zone, yeah, it's hard. It's hard for me to predict where it goes. But my instinct for the way technology evolves and how it's going to affect our business is that we are a translator to the customer. So what the customer needs from us is understanding of the technology landscape and how they can utilize it in their business. And what we're doing is we're sitting between the robot and the customer and helping them understand, okay, this is what the robot's telling us. Here's how you can use it to, fix whatever issue you're having in your business. I think that the technology evolves over the course of time, but I think the business's need for that intermediary, that translator, I don't think that goes away. Maybe there's businesses that operate on tech exclusively and that's all they need. They don't have humans that are working there largely. But I think for a business that employs humans, the technology translator is a pretty stable role. That's what my gut says anyways.
I think in the short term, we're safe. And this doesn't necessarily have to just be talking about Live Oak, but I do think that AI is going to kind of take over everything. And it's going to be unfathomable what it's going to look like because have you ever seen WALL-E?
Yes.
Remember when they're on the spaceship and they have the robots taking care of everything?
Yes, and everybody's riding around in chairs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it could potentially look like that.
Sure, certainly could. I think human beings, the more technology intertwined we get, the more we realize that it's not necessarily good for our mental health. And so I do think that there will be some kind of holding at a distance of technology as it evolves past where we're going or where we are now, because we'll realize that it's having an impact on our mental health. I think that the next generation, like our generation, I say our generation as though we're the same age, but we have sort of the pre-tech experience and now
Pre-iPhone.
iPhone is the catalyst, right? So we knew what life was like pre-iPhone. Post-iPhone, we had this new tool that nobody really understood how to use it, what effect it was going to have on mental health, all those things. Well, now we're raising kids with the knowledge of where it can go when it goes poorly. And so I think the guardrails that we'll put up will be a little bit higher than what our parents did, because our parents just didn't understand it. So the other thing that I think helps us in what we do is that as long as there's an independent market, as long as there's a free market where you've got companies that will compete and will release products that will try to one-up each other, there will always be environments where you've got a customer that has a fleet of PCs and a fleet of Macs and a myriad of software tools that they're using, and those things won't always work well together because they're not designed by the same people to work together well. And so having somebody to call when this thing is not talking to this thing, I think will still require some human oversight.
Sure.
Or I'm wrong and we have to get another job. Or the power goes out and now our jobs aren't relevant at all.
Right?
Yeah, that could happen too.
Yeah. It's so hard to predict what it's going to look like. And you can look for sci-fi movies or books to guide you. But then again, those are just people's opinions.
Yeah.
But AI is just so interesting to me because in a way, it's like nothing we've experienced before because it can learn so quickly and it's like it can be like hyper evolution in our creation that we've made. And I guess I'm just kind of curious to see what that leads to. And yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see.
Yeah.
I do think that it's inevitable that it will be intertwined in every bit of tech that we use forever.
Oh yeah, look at your microwave.
Yeah.
Has a chip in it that connects to the internet.
Right.
You know?
It's like Mitchell's versus the Machines. You seen that on Netflix? You gotta watch that one. It's a good family movie. I do think that while it will be more and more ubiquitous as it evolves, I do also think that we underestimate the complexity of the human brain and human experience and technology's ability to replicate that. I think we're further away from it than we think. I think because it's a new tool and it's wildly better than anything that preceded it.
Siri.
Yeah, we go, whoa, what
Yeah.
is this new thing? And then we start to imagine, well, if it got this good in one iteration, what's it going to look like 3 years from now?
Mm-hmm.
You ever seen Looper, that movie?
Yes.
It's the one about the assassins that close people's loops.
Yeah.
You know what I'm talking about?
Mm-hmm.
There's this element of that movie where you've got people with this gene mutation that can float quarters. You know what I'm talking about in that movie? It's like you have this TK telekinetic gene mutation,
Okay.
and it allows you to dial into this TK ability that you have, and it starts with people floating quarters out of their palm. And then everybody assumes if you have this TK gene mutation, you know, now that we know that this is a thing, what's it going to evolve to? People will turn into superhumans because now you can float things, and I could, you know, potentially float cars and
Yeah.
houses and all that. And what ultimately happens in that movie is, I think the quote is, you just have a bunch of assholes that are floating quarters trying to pick up girls at the bar. Like it's this thing that you imagine.
Nobody ends up becoming a terrorist or anything.
No, it's all it ends up being is people have the ability to float a quarter, and it's a novelty. And while I don't think I think that's a little bit simplified to compare to AI. I do think there's elements of that we might look back 10 years from now and go, man, we really thought AI was going to change the world fundamentally, and meanwhile we're all just kind of floating quarters and asking a robot questions.
Yeah, I think right now it's definitely a little bit more of a novelty,
Yeah.
but I do see it advancing.
I think it got really popular really fast because of the novel elements of it. Because you could go and ask this robot a question, and it would give you really nuanced, well thought out, seemingly answers.
Go eat a rock.
Go eat a rock. But it sounds good when it's coming out.
Right?
Yeah. Yeah, so the novelty, I think, created mass market where they could get people that would never have used that kind of tool before and now will use it.
Sure.
But for it to maintain relevance, yeah, it's got to get better and better over time.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I have a couple more questions. We've got 10 minutes left or so, 10 or 15. Who do you report to at Live Oak?
Mike,
What's it like working for Mike?
I love it.
Talk about that.
So, Mike is definitely my mentor. And when I told you I worked at my last company, I would be micromanaged constantly. Well, when I was working at my game company, I thought that that's how you were supposed to manage people. And I would pretty much breathe on people's necks trying to get them to work and everything. And man, people hated me. And lots of feuds and fights on the team. And we kind of had some falling out with some of the people there. But I ended up quitting my last company and then coming to work at Live Oak. And when Mike was my manager, I had to like retrain myself on how to act because I was so used to kind of being put down all the time and micromanaged. So Mike has taught me how to kind of cool down a little bit, treat others the way you want to be treated, and I don't know, kind of live an island life a little bit, or island time, where still go get your stuff done, but nothing's gonna break.
Yeah.
Keep your cool and everything, and I've been able to translate that into my management style. And I mean, you could ask the team, but I think that they would all say that they're treated pretty well here, and that they like having me as a boss.
Yeah. I'll ask them. We'll see. We'll see if you're telling the truth or not. So the lack of micromanagement. What else? What does good leadership look like to you?
Compassion. In this type of work, there's stress that can build up and can kind of eat you alive a little bit.
Yep.
When you can't figure something out, you can get burnout really easily. And having a boss that kind of just checks in on you to make sure everything's okay and not scold you for maybe possibly doing something wrong on accident it goes miles with the techs.
Yeah. Yeah, it's good.
Mm-hmm.
Who do you mentor?
Right now, I don't think I'm mentoring anybody right now. I have mentored a few people in the past when I was the L1 lead.
Yeah.
But everybody's kind of at this level in their career where they don't really need it.
Yeah. There's no shortage of things to be pessimistic about when you look at the world, right? Especially if you watch news.
Yep.
What makes you optimistic?
My daughter.
Why?
Just because it's kind of a breath of fresh air. When you turn on the news, all you see is the stock market crashing, wars going on. There's been lately some stuff where people have extreme opinions that I don't necessarily agree with. And I'm able to turn that off and look at my daughter, who's 2, and is a clean slate. And she just likes running around, eating fruit snacks, and giggling. And it just makes me happy, I guess.
Yeah. So when you think about the future that she's going to inherit, what is there to be optimistic about?
Oh man, that's.
Is there evidence for optimism? Or do you just have to force yourself into optimism?
I think that the future looks very optimistic. I think that right now there's just a lot of turmoil, and I think that our government is potentially may go through some sort of reform, but I think that might lead to more opportunities for her whenever she is an adult.
Sure. Yeah, it feels a little dark at times, right? Depending on how much attention you're paying to news cycles. But there's the hope that it's darkest before dawn. That tends to be the way the world works.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think a good example of this too is, like, I have a Gen Z sister, and
What are you?
I'm a millennial.
You're a millennial.
Yeah.
So we are in the same generation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think you're only like 6 years older than me.
What are you?
32.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
But yeah, I look at my sister, and it's like, at this rate in Austin, there's no way she's going to be able to afford a house. And I think that a lot of people in her generation feel like that. They feel kind of hopeless. But my sister just graduated from beauty school, and she just got a job at a salon, like a really cool one downtown.
Probably pretty quickly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And she's really excited about it. And that makes me pretty optimistic, because somebody that's kind of felt like they've gotten kind of the shit end of the deal is kind of pulling herself up by her bootstraps and,
Yeah.
and becoming an adult and starting her career.
Yeah. Have you ever told her that?
She just graduated, so I will.
She just graduated and got herself a job really quickly.
Yeah.
I know a lot of people that graduated a long time ago that are having a tough time finding a job. It's pretty cool.
Yeah.
That's when you think about what we do for a living, my theory is that we are way less of a technical job and way more of a trade. We're a little more akin to like a plumber, welder, than we are, a programmer per se.
Then again, I kind of look at everything as a trade.
Yeah.
In a sense. It's like when I was at the Art Institute, like, the stuff I was doing is definitely trade school stuff.
Yeah.
But I still had to go take physics. I had to take chemistry and English and math and stuff. And it's like, I'm going here for art.
Right.
Why do I need to know this type of stuff?
It'll be interesting to see how the higher education world changes when Lila becomes of age to potentially go to college, what the landscape will look like. I would imagine it's wildly different than it looks like today.
I would think so. And when you look at the news, everybody's getting their student loans and stuff forgiven, whether you agree with it or not. It's happening.
Yeah. Yeah. It's interesting. So let's go back to Live Oak for a second. We've grown quite a bit in the last 5 years. Should we keep growing?
Yeah.
Why?
Give more opportunity to our existing people that work here, and then also allow other awesome people to be able to take part of what we're already being able to enjoy.
Yeah. So the reason to grow would be more jobs available, better jobs for existing people to move up into. What about the customer side of it?
Kind of the same thing.
Yeah, ability to take on, to save people from their bad MSP that they're with, right? We talk about that quite a bit.
Yeah.
Justin, what else, man? Anything else you want to talk about while we're here?
Not really. I feel like
Good.
you got a lot out of me.
We covered a lot of ground. Yeah. Well, I'll answer one of my own questions about what makes me optimistic. You know, the future of the world is what it's going to be. You know, I have very little influence over that.
Mm-hmm.
What's within my sphere of influence is things that are company related, you know, where the business is going, whether or not we grow, what kind of customers we take on, what kind of people we attract, how we manage the business, that sort of thing. What makes me optimistic is people like you that work here, that bring your own creativity, your own care for the customer experience, your care for the employee experience, and you know what progression people get to have during their time here.
Mm-hmm.
So that's something I wanted to mention to you while you were here. I really, really appreciate the influence that you've had on our business model in the last 5 years, because I think you raised the bar for everybody. You know, your ability to work really, really hard. I don't ever see you in island mode, at least not from my vantage point. Like, you're always available, you're always working, you're always able to be called on when there's a need. But also the level of care that you give for your people. You know, we talk a lot about your concerns for people being able to have upward mobility and to have a good quality of life as the company gets bigger.
Mm-hmm.
That's what makes me optimistic. So I wanted to tell you I appreciate that.
I appreciate that too.
Yeah. All right. Well,
Thank you,
thanks for making time for this.
Absolutely.
It's good.